Yo, it is yours truly, Lamore Decina, aka Mr. Kool Spot, here with my lovely guest, Sharita Freeman. What's up, love?
I'm not your guest, sir. I'm your co-host.
Yes,
Yeah,
my
what let me
co-host.
do me, y'all.
What in the
Okay.
world?
You want to interview me one day, don't you? It's okay. It's
What
not.
is it?
It's
You know
okay.
what?
You want to interview me one day. It's okay.
That's it. Because you
That's
know what?
it. Okay.
You interviewed me once, and I feel like it's only right sooner or later, sooner than later. We're gonna have to get you on that platform on the receiving end. Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
You want to try
How you
again?
feel? How you feel? You
Yeah,
feel all
I'm
right?
your co-host, Free, or Sharita Freeman. Now I be going by my whole name.
I know,
Everybody know my whole name. They can be like, "Who is this?"
right?
But yes. How you feeling today, Lamore? How you feeling?
Man, I'm good, man. I went to the gym today, first time in about 6-7 months.
Did you feel safe?
I did. It wasn't. I went to Planet Fitness, and the only reason why, because I know my doctors are watching, so I got to make this. I'm under surveillance, y'all. I'm watch care. So, and the only reason why really was because I checked my bank statement the other day, yesterday, matter of fact, and I noticed that Planet Fitness had hit me up last month and already this month. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I haven't even been going. You know what I mean? Didn't get the email either. So I went to the trail the other day, and half of it's actually blocked off. They're doing some construction for the roadway,
Okay.
and they said it's going to be down for like 6 months. So I'm like, 6 months, half of it. And I don't like to go backwards. You know what I mean? If I'm going to make a full lap, let me make my full lap. So I've been kind of crossing the barricades anyway. But yeah, and I got stopped the other day. So the guy was like, "Hey, the barricades are there for a reason, whatever." I'm like, "All right." So then after that, I said, "All right, well, I guess I need to do something different." And I went to the gym this morning. Felt good. I couldn't even finish my full cycle of my usual routine, which I thought was interesting. And I said, well, I guess I need to build back up to it. So I feel good though. It feels really good, trying to eat clean, and I'm on my tea right now, so if you guys see me sipping Dr. McClendon and Dr. Arnold McClendon and Dr. Tanya Betts, this is nothing but tea. It's not caffeinated coffee. I've been doing good. This is, you know what I mean? This is that lavender tea too. And I don't think I like it as much as that super fruit tea. That comes in a container. You can get at Harris Teeter, $5 or something like that. But really, really good stuff, man. All natural herbs and spices and all that good stuff. So, but I'm good. How you feeling?
Good. You look good. You look like you're feeling better. You're bouncing back.
I'm bouncing back, man. I've been going through my little health thing,
He was trying to be Spider-Man. The Spider the bitch was trying to transform and stuff. So I'm glad that you're feeling better.
Yeah, I'm feeling how you
good. All is well. Work has been busy. They're about to bring some people in the office. I'm not really, elated yet, only because of the amount of people. Anybody that knows me knows I love my job. I love my company, but we're hitting busy season, so they're about to bring like 400 people in. And so in my particular building, 200. So, I think as we navigate through COVID, while a lot of things are becoming more relaxed, I still, feel the best about having to see 200 people in one day.
Yeah.
Every day, for 4 months. So I'm like, I feel like I might need a double mask, but of course, being aware of safety precaution, and they're taking all the needed precautions as well. So, you have to be uncomfortable sometimes and grow.
Yeah.
And so just embracing
there you go.
That uncomfortability.
Y'all
know what
I'm Yeah.
Look, it's that Garner, okay? But outside of that, all is well. So I'm super excited, right?
Yeah.
Because today we have this gentleman named Singing Blue. He's coming up, and he's a mentor. He's retired military. He's a veteran, and he's the owner of Triangle Sports Consultant. And I know I met him with Lamore. Was that over the summer when we met? Because we actually did
it was in June, because we did our first event together July 4th. So we met in June. Yeah, we met in June.
And it was such an interesting build. And even when we met in July and we had kind of like a panel discussion, and the wealth of knowledge that Sam has is breathtaking at the least. And the fact that he is so thorough on, we're not necessarily going on how you feel. We're going to go off the facts, right? And if you know the Kool Spot, that's our thing, right? Facts first, feeling second.
That's right.
So with that, I'm excited for you all to meet Sam Blue, you to be able to partake in a little bit of this knowledge, but to break bread, you know, shall I say, maybe have something a little controversial, something make you might not feel comfortable. But we're going to research and we're going to push through it.
Yeah, we'll see.
So,
yeah,
ready? You ready?
And again, before we go into everybody, again, this is fully interactive. We want to get our segments out the way first. So we're going to have our first initial set of questions first. And then we're going to go into, getting you guys' questions and everything. So we have a few topics that we'll go over, and you guys, you'll hear the announcement when you can start dropping your comments in the box, and we'll flash them across the screen, and we'll go through each one. Because after our first set of questions, we'll do like a recap of the presidential debate, and that was recent, and we'll build from that. All right. So go ahead, Free. Take it away.
All right, let's bring them on in. Hey Sam, how you doing today?
What's up, brother?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
It's going good.
How your day going? Well. Yeah, your day going well? You good?
Yeah, I've been getting blown up with DMs. People asking questions. I said just tune in at 4:00 and send your questions then, and we'll handle them as a collective.
Absolutely.
I got my laptop right here, so all the fact checkers out there, we can fact check together. We love facts. So
there you go. And I was talking to Free earlier, and I was telling her about how our culture, the Black culture, and I may throw a jab here to some may get offended by this, but it's no pun intended, but it's the facts. It's truth. Our culture is the most popular across the world, but I can honestly say, just by observation, that our culture is probably the most emotionally led culture in the world. You know what I'm saying? And it comes from a few places, and just looking at the traumas that we have to go throughout time, throughout history. That's a cause, right? You also have mindsets that people are stuck in. There's just a lack of growth, and this is not to bash the Black community, but I feel like through this conversation with Samuel Blue today, one of the things that I really one of my objectives personally is wanting to get people to kind of see beyond their emotions and their feelings. You know what I'm saying? And get out of that survival mode, and so that we can actually get into some real content where we can start thinking from the logical mind. You know what I'm saying? With the logical mind, I mean to say. And just through that, and it's not no jab towards anybody in particular, but this is more just a general statement that I want to make because, I get into debates on my page. And it's nothing to just go back and do some fact checking and just really look at what's being said and how it's being said. You know what I mean? And it's really all we have to do. It's not about who says it first, and just because they said it first, we respond and we react. It's no, wait a minute. Okay, I heard that, but let me go back and let me check this first, then respond and react. You know what I'm saying? But just want to throw that out there, man. But this is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. So where do we begin? Let's get to know who you are, Sam. Mr. Blue, tell us about yourself, man. Give us a little background about yourself, and then we'll start this off.
Well, basically, I'm the product of a biracial marriage. I'm biracial. My mom's Mongolian. My father's Black. My father's from Detroit area, Michigan. He, soon as he graduated from high school, he did a few things, and then he did some things and he just had to go to the military. He knew he wanted to get out of Detroit.
Right.
So he went to the military. He met my mother over in South Korea, and they hit it off, and had three of us. And my mother, she didn't really like it here too much. She was dealing with some things, so she did leave the States. And my father, he handled business, as far as like taking care of us. And his concept of taking care of us was food on the table, roof over our head. He didn't like throw a football, basketball, anything with us. He figured taking the bills is what he's supposed to have done. So I basically used that to kind of like mold how I grew up. We moved around quite a bit, always landing back in Detroit. And basically, I just wanted to offer a lot of kids in the community what I didn't have. So I started a program on Top Rank Mentoring. And I started that up probably about 2000, right around 2002. And basically mentored about a total about 157 kids. So basically what I tried to do was show their parents that there's certain things that they have to take on their own.
Right.
There are certain resources that they have to find themselves. So I would kind of like point them in the direction and try to empower those parents. So when we formed Top Rank Mentoring, we kind of like looked at a lot of kids in the Raleigh area, was in AAU basketball, things like that. And I started looking at the prices and how much they're charging and things like that. And I couldn't understand at first. So I started to stream out on the basketball side to try to provide something for the youth. Provided training, all the time, but all that stuff was free. And, I definitely have to thank my son and my wife for sharing me with, 157 kids, sharing our pocketbooks, our wallets with 157 kids, a lot of hours. So I definitely appreciate them. But I later in 2012 started to do more sports because of my son's involvement in sports. And we basically he went to Millbrook High School, and one thing I have to say about Millbrook High School is I saw the interaction with the coaches, the ADs, the teachers, like real involved. And I never thought I'd see anything like that at a public school. So, my son basically lived there because he played 3 sports. And so basically he was there all year round. So I wanted to kind of like show the love to a lot of kids in the community. So I started doing training. My son, when he headed off to college, he was like, "Daddy, you should start helping some of my friends and stuff because I'm going to be gone." And he took up so much of my time, and he kind of knew that. So I started, Triangle Sports and started training a lot of athletes. And basically what I wanted to do was show them that there is money for everybody to go to college for free, whether athletic, education, there's money for everybody. Everybody literally go to school for free. But a lot of parents were having issues finding that because they were so focused on their high school coach, their AAU program. They were so focused on them doing everything. And these AAU programs, these coaches, they have a whole lot of kids that they're focusing on. One guy, Coach Black, he has a ton of kids going through. I know he's on the phone all the time trying to recruit for these kids, and it's a job in itself. So basically what I tried to do was get resources, send those things out for free for parents, train up their kids. I had over 100 kids that didn't even think they played Division III. Now they're playing Division I. So that was my goal, was to show them and empower them that, anybody can do it. If you put your heart into it, you put 100%, you're not a victim. You're not a victim because your parents aren't together. You're not a victim because you may have gotten in trouble. There's always you can repent for what you done, and you basically have to just empower yourself. And all we have to do is Google it away. So basically, now with Triangle Sports Consulting, everything that I do is for free. It's literally for free. Okay. And because that's what's in my heart to do. So I got a call last week of someone, their athlete didn't work out at the college. So they weren't aware of like some of the stipulations of your calendar, certain things. So I kind of just guide them in that direction. And
that's good.
That's my passion, and I think that's something that I always do. So that's I know good. That was a whole mouthful, but I'm just passionate about information and self-empowerment.
Yeah. And I think that's important to know. That's why I appreciate you, because it's like when you work with people that are very passionate about what they do and what they believe, like it's something that becomes contagious, and I appreciate that. Because you've done a lot of good works, and you're still working with helping people out with, getting connected. We lost him.
He'll be back. No worries. Continue.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so it's always refreshing to get to know people that are super passionate about what they believe and what they do. It's to me, it's the energy that I feed off of, the energy that I look for. So like, Sam Blue is somebody that I've just naturally adopted, and you bring him in free.
Not yet.
Okay, so Sam Blue is somebody that I've just naturally adopted. He probably didn't even know yet, you know what I'm saying? But I meet people that are like really passionate about what they do, and if I have an interest in that passion, then it's like, hey, we're on the same team, whether you know it or not, right?
Right.
He's going to run. All right. So you ready? All right, let's go. You don't even wait for an answer. So, and it'd be like that. But it's always all love though, and it's always good to just be around, people that have great minds, man, because it's contagious. That's the standard, right? So Sam, this what brought you into politics though, man? Because I know again, to try to be brief about it, what brought you into politics to really get you on this level that, where you just want to make sure, like, we know. I know it plays a lot on what you just said as far as, mindsets and different things that we grow into and discovering self and all of that stuff. But what was the thing that brought you into politics though?
Well, I've always loved learning. Like I was that kid that went through I got an encyclopedia and I went from the beginning to the end. I didn't read the dictionary. I needed something with some pictures in it. So I love reading encyclopedias. I just love learning. And when my career was done with the military, when I got out the Army, when that was finished, I started at the North Carolina DMV headquarters. So basically, a gentleman, Wayne Herder, took me under his wing kind of as my mentor. And he basically, he brought me in, and he, when I got the position, he basically told me the direction that he wanted to see driver license going in. And he felt that I could help with that. So he started to just pile stuff on my plate, and he said, it's going to be rough, but I think you can really take DMV to another level. So basically, he gave me a lot of projects, and one of them was basically, going through Chapter 20, motor vehicle law. And so one of the projects was I had to write the North Carolina Examiner's Handbook. So in doing that, it's not just putting together a handbook. You literally have to go through general statute. You have to find what laws. You have to you just have to fact check. You have to research. And my son was a strong tool of that because I used to run a lot of the stuff by him because at that time he was in the 5th grade. And I said, okay, I need to make sure that this handbook and everything that I write a fifth grader can understand it. So he basically went through the entire book with me, as
Oh
I
wow.
read. So that time there basically taught me how to research, how to, all the time that I had to go to the General Assembly to see how, these laws were getting passed, what we had to kind of like compromise. You basically learn how the votes work, how things become law. I took my
Right.
son down there a whole lot with me, because I felt that was important that he learned. So basically that sparked my interest. So now anytime I hear anything related to it, it would just it would kind of just give me that, let me fact check, let me see if they're telling the truth, let me see if there's a loophole, if they're just feeding us a lot of mess and they're not going to follow through. So
Right.
that kind of just sparked my interest. And when I retired, it was basically one of those things that I said, well, I have a passion. My wife gets on me all the time. She's like, all you do is watch C-SPAN all day. I have it streaming on YouTube Prime. Just, I just enjoy breaking down verbiage, breaking down words, and trying to like break it down so, regular people like us can understand it. So that's kind of like how it just sparked my interest.
Okay, that's good, man. That's good. So let's talk what's going on locally, man. Tom Tillis and Cal, what is it, Cunningham? I just messed his name all up. But let's talk about that, man, because I know we want to try to highlight. So, what are some of the things that we need to know here on a local level? Because we're right here in North Carolina, and us on this here platform right now, we're all based in Raleigh, North Carolina. Well, Free is in Durham, but me and Sam, we're in Raleigh. So let's talk what's going on locally, man, in the state of North Carolina. What's going on with Cal Cunningham and Tom Tillis right now? Because I know they actually had a debate here recently too, and I was able to watch that. Yeah. So I was able to watch that yesterday and pull a few points from that, which I thought was really, really interesting. And one of the things that I noticed that they brought up was like a forced vaccine. I think that was last year, I believe. I don't know if you're familiar with that. There was like a forced vaccine.
I heard some. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's quite a few things that they brought up yesterday when I watched the video, but let's just highlight like what are some of the things that we should be aware of when it comes to like things that we need to be pushing for and looking for from both parties.
Well, the first thing is accountability. No matter what, accountability, and that's not just for the Senate race. We're talking about for the House. We're talking about the mayor, the city council, the commissioners, any boards, or any community leaders, your church leaders, your school leaders. Accountability. That's the number one thing that we need to look for, because I hear a lot of people making promises, a lot of people saying things, but with my background, I look at how are they going to accomplish that? How are they going to do this? And if there's no way that I see them accomplishing it, then I'll ask questions. I ask other people, what do they think? How do they think it's going to be done? So the main thing is when it comes to Tom Tillis and Cal Cunningham is, they're both politicians. At the end of the day, you have one Republican, one Democrat, and, one is about, you have to overlook like certain emotional aspects of it. I hear a lot of people, instead of looking into the policies, all they're saying is, well, vote red or vote blue. No matter what, vote blue or vote red. And I'm like, that's the worst thing you can advise someone to do. Let that person like research. If we look up when the next Jordan's coming out, or when the new releases, or when stimulus money's coming, and we'll ask all these questions about when the next stimulus check coming, but we don't ask anything about our candidates. And that's one of the primary issues I see in our community. We're focused on the wrong things. We're focused on one single check that may be $1,200, versus a decision that may affect us the next 2 to 4 years.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the number one issue, is the accountability that we should require. When when a candidate promises something, write it down, put it on a vision board, put it on a sticky note, and you hold them. If they do get elected, you hold them to what they said.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't uphold that promise, why re-elect them? You have people in the Senate that's been in there 30, 40 years. And people are still complaining about how bad things are in their states, but you keep voting for them just because you're voting red or you're voting blue.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem. We're not even requiring them to have accountability. That's our problem. If we can't require them to have accountability, how can we require it of ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, question, with that being stated, with accountability being one of the major things, do you think that as a community, or with those voting in general, that the issue is that they don't understand what they're voting for? As in, they don't understand the different branches of government. They just kind of focus primarily on presidential races versus their local races. Do you feel like that is one of the ongoing or major issues?
I think what you said about they're focusing too much on the presidential race, that's probably the biggest problem, because a lot of the information we get from the presidential races, remember, our community, we don't really research. Mm-hmm. We don't, as I said with the accountability earlier, all we do is go on whatever we get from the media, whatever, we're just what our neighbor says. We don't fact check them. We don't ask any questions. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why a lot of our communities are struggling, because, when we voted in 2016, people forgot, okay, there's an election in 2018.
Right.
And only 25% of Black voters voted in 2018 that voted in 2016. So only 25%. So that right there tells you that, we're not, our community leaders aren't even passing that word. Those are the lowest turnouts, our Senate and House races. And my perspective, those races are the most important. The Senate, the House, City Council, the mayor. To me, I feel those are more important than the presidency. Right. Because we're going to see aspects, we're going to see those effects a lot sooner than we do effects from the president.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So let's talk about one of the discussions that we had on the flyer. One of the topics we had on the flyer. Let's talk about the healthcare. What's going on right now with healthcare and the ACA. Let's talk about that.
Well, I know, just following it for the last 12 years. Mm-hmm. When the Affordable Care Act happened, it was good because a lot of people that couldn't afford health insurance, they were finally able to get health insurance. But then that was the good part. But then one of the bad parts, where a lot of people don't understand why some people are against it, is there's two main reasons. The first reason was there was a mandate. So even if, like, I have friends that don't want health insurance, they want to just pay out of pocket. And to me, that should be their choice. If they want to risk that, that should be their choice.
It's their choice.
But they shouldn't get fined $600, and then the second year they don't have it, they get fined, it doubles to $1,200. To me, that was one of the negative parts why some people didn't want the Affordable Care Act. The other part that I hear people complain about is, and I think they're right to complain, if they do make a little bit more money, their costs go up.
Goes up.
And I know one guy, he went from paying $467 a month to $1,250 a month.
Jeez.
For the same plan.
Same plan, right?
And he went from being able to afford it and just make it to like just hanging on or barely hanging on, insurance lapsing. You know, so those are the two things that people don't like. And I think that that's one thing that I think if we have a program that at least allows you to choose, you know, if the Affordable Care Act, I think it would have a lot more people wanting it if it at least allowed you to, if it at least allowed you to choose. And also if it allowed you to have, let's say if you're a state employee, you have no choice but Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Right.
I don't know what monopoly Blue Cross Blue Shield has on state and education, but you have no choice. So Blue Cross Blue Shield can charge whatever. You know, there's no competition.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. I think that's something that needs to be addressed. You know, what was it? There was something that I just recently heard about healthcare. What was it again? What was it? It can't even come back to mind. I can't think of it right now. It left me. But so there's just different things that we definitely have to be mindful of, man, when it comes down to just knowing what we're voting for, knowing what to expect. And, you know, even with it comes to knowing what our resources are, and how to gain access to the resources that are completely available to everybody. I think that's going to be a big thing too. But before we jump there, the criminal and prison reform, you know, I know that when Clinton was in place, that, you know, when Clinton was the president, they had that the prison reform back then. What was it that they did?
Wasn't it a 3 strikes?
They had the 3 strike law, right? It was a 3 strike law that they did back then.
Well, a lot of that happened. That was in you hear a lot of people talking about the 1994 crime bill.
Yeah.
And you'll hear and basically, you know, Clinton was the president then, and I hear a lot of people basically, you know, when I look at, you go online and you look at that whole hearing. It's on C-SPAN. You can pull it up on YouTube. But that hearing, if you listen to that 4 hours, all I hear is the demeaning of Black people, the Black community, especially if you're a single mother. The way I hear it is just like kids that are raised by single mothers are the worst imaginable. And you know, anybody can look that up on C-SPAN. You know, and they may have a different aspect. That's why I say it from what my perspective, what I hear. And basically from that stemmed out the 3 strikes. That stemmed out, you know, your 3rd strike could be shoplifting a can of soup.
Yeah,
it's your 3rd strike. That's life in prison for a can of soup. You know, for a stamp, for, you know, getting in a fight on the side of the corner, like for anything, your 3rd strike's your 3rd strike.
Right.
And I think that right there was that when that crime bill was put in, I see 2 sides. I see that side, but then I see, you know, a lot of people saying, well, the Black Caucus approved it. And I feel money talks. If people put enough money, donate enough money to an organization, they get certain things, they're looking out for their best interests. And to me, that was one of the worst things the Black Caucus could back, was that crime bill.
Right.
You know, so all these years, that's when basically you have millions of Black men and women, majority were Black men, taking out their homes for the nonviolent offenses, like permanently. You know, and, you know, we had all these presidents. We had Clinton, we had Bush, we had Obama, we had all these presidents come through, and nobody fixed it. The Black community was complaining for the last 30 years. But we were voting on the people that, you know, we were voting for the people that pushed that. We're complaining about it, but we're still voting for the people that supported it. So we couldn't complain or say, oh, it's white people doing this, it's the system. We're the ones who voted for the system.
Right.
So when we talk about, you know, we're against the system, we're these things right here, we're the ones who's voting for it. And so we're not holding them accountable. What the first thing we mentioned. So, you know, when Trump came in, it was something that some senators was already putting it in place, because
Right.
it wasn't an executive order. It was a bipartisan vote. But
Right.
my question is, why did it take 30 years for us to get
Keep going. I'm
prison
change my
reform?
battery real quick. Keep going, bro. Change my battery real
You
quick.
know, why did it take 30 years for us to get prison reform that did not push the systemic racism in the justice system for 30 whole years? You know, so finally, you know, it was passed. And when you're president, you know, whatever passes under your watch, whether Obama, Trump, Clinton, Bush, your administration gets that credit. Regardless of what it passed under that administration. So to me, it doesn't matter who it passed under. What matters is that it passed. You know, that is now fixing the issue. But we focus, oh, Obama did this, or Bush did this, or Clinton did this. That shouldn't even matter. You know, if it's in the past, let's start working at the next hurdle. That prison reform was a big hurdle. You know, it took 30 years, but now that hurdle is gone. Let's focus on the next issue that our community has a problem with.
So let me ask you a question. I know I asked you this personally before. So as someone that's interested in getting into politics or wanting to know more, because as we talked about it, we have to be aware before we can make informed decisions. So we're not just doing what Granny used to do, voting, you know, straight Democrat, or, you know, this is the party that has our best interest, because I think that's assumed a lot of times, is that, you know, this is the party that is just for us, and this is the Black party. And that's not always the correct thing. Like you said, kind of solidly voting that way. You should be voting by what they're asking and what they're providing. So with that being stated, I know you had said C-SPAN was a good resource before. Is there something else that those that are not very well versed in politics, but kind of wanting to find out good information, what are some other resources that you might use that you might feel would be helpful?
Well, I would just say what C-SPAN, but you have to basically be boring. You know, basically, like, you have to have the time. And the reason why I say C-SPAN is because, or even C-SPAN on YouTube, because they break it down.
Okay.
Is C-SPAN is not cut; it's just streamed. So and you have to understand, when we look at Fox News is going to take that 4 hours of that C-SPAN, and they're going to cut whatever they can do to fit in the 2 to 3 minutes.
Right.
And of course, it's going to fit their narrative. CNN, the same thing. They're going to take 4 hours, and they need that 2-3 minutes to feed into whatever their narrative is. Bloomberg, Yahoo, they all have to do it. So what I try to do is, along with C-SPAN, I do watch CNN, I watch Fox, I watch OEM. But one of the main things I started to watch is more like investigative reporting, like Vice. You know, I posted a few things now. Vice is basically a bunch of young kids. The majority of them are liberals. But the thing is, they're doing what we feel the news should have always done: investigate, just put the facts out there. You know, regardless if they're liberal or conservative, what we should get is the truth. So in today's time, I tell people you have to really look at both sides, because, you know, we always tell people, you know, there's one side, there's the other side, and there's the truth.
Right.
So I think someone has to just be open to researching themselves. Not just, I see so many people, like on Facebook, soon as something is said or something happens, something jumps off, they just go on Facebook and start retweeting whether it's true or not. And well, I don't even call it bandwagon, because one thing I always say is the greatest type of oppression that's negative is misinformation. And I saw one thing where, you know, when the Justice Ruth passed away, you know, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, you know, a lot of people wanted to use that to turn it into something political. And I started seeing people post, well, if it wasn't for her, women would not be able to have their own bank account. If it wasn't for her, women wouldn't be able to have their own house in their name. They wouldn't be able to own cars. Women wouldn't be able to play sports. So I'm looking at, okay, when Clinton was elected, because, you know, he's the one who nominated her.
Right.
So you mean to tell me who signed for Oprah Winfrey's house? Who signed for all of these movie stars and all these women? Some of my family members that had, you know, women that had homes in their name. What about Billie Jean King? What about all these women pro athletes before 1993? You mean to tell me that all that I saw in the Olympics was a lie? All this pro sports was a lie? None of these women had bank accounts, you know, own their own homes. So, you know, I look at Donna Ross, I look at like, you know, all these women in Motown, Ella Jane, you know, just they had their own property, their own bank accounts, their own homes. So that's kind of like the misinformation that people, they don't fact check it. Our community, all we do is just send it out. We don't care if it's true or not. Denzel Washington said it best when they tried to, you know, when he dropped from the Democratic Party and went to the Republican side. He said, look, he's tired of the narrative. He's like, the news now has changed. It used to be about facts, but now it's just about being first, whether, you know, it's true or not. And I think I sent it to Lemoy last night, that Denzel club, where he was talking about it. You know, and that's what we've gotten away from, is the factual part of the media. It's all about first. It's all about all these anonymous sources or leaks here, leaks there. And it's taking people off the focus of the accountability of these politicians, regardless of the side. You know, regardless, I don't do vote for the lesser evil. You know, because if you're going to shoot yourself in the head or take a bottle of pills, the end result is death. So research, and I tell people to vote for your best interests. You know, don't focus. There's a group of kids at a HBCU, I won't say the name, but these kids, they have these secret group chats because they're conservatives. So imagine being Black on an HBCU campus feeling oppressed. That's the worst feeling in the world. But if they say that they're...
Oh, we lost him again. Oh, you muted, Free.
You got to come back. I think that, like you said, like the students feeling oppressed at the place where you should feel welcome. So maybe it's a point of not knowing how to accept another's opinion.
Yeah. And there's a big war too, a political war, where people, I mean, like you can have best friends and you can actually fall out. Like your whole friendship could fall apart. 20-year friendship fall apart.
Over your political views.
Right. And it's like, come on, is it that serious? Come on.
So are we taking politics and making it more personal than it needs to be? Are we, because I've heard that. I've seen where somebody was on the show and they lost their whole friendship because that person, you know, believed in one particular person. And they were like, I don't feel like we can be friends.
Right.
So we were just piggybacking off of what you were saying, Sam, about those students feeling uncomfortable. Why is it that we're internalizing it so much that it becomes such deep-rooted hatred if you believe something different than I do? Like, we can't have different opinions.
Well, let's get it clear. These students are feeling oppressed. They're not feeling uncomfortable. They are feeling oppressed. You know, and to me, that should be the worst feeling in the world. But what we have to understand, where, you know, I see where we talk about cyberbullying, I see coaches, I see mentors, I see all these people saying, well, if I don't see you post this, you don't need to be my friend, or if I don't see you post this. Some people don't understand, so they don't post what they don't understand.
Right.
You know, I have a lot of friends that are in biracial relationships, biracial marriages, biracial, you know, children. And they're saying all these things, but some of these kids don't understand, or even these adults and coaches, supposed to be coaches and mentors, you know, you're teaching hate. You know, you're teaching all these things. You know, the other night I saw people, oh, good, the president got corona, hope he died, stuff like that. And some of these were coming from leaders of a church.
Right.
And I'm sitting there, you know, I read some people saying, oh, I'm sorry, I can't lie. Well, that I know if I was a member of that church, I wouldn't be there anymore.
Yeah,
you know,
we get to see a lot of that.
We're not perfect, but we're supposed to lead by example, try the best that we can. And you know, these kids, these people, you know, when you break up relationships, you know, whether friends, whether families, certain things like that, like, you know, I think you have to like look in there at yourself. You know, because if you're that type of person where you're willing to end just because someone may ask a question, you know, if somebody says, you know, Trump's racist, and someone says, well, give me an instance of where they're racist and cite a source, you know, a valid source. You know, well, all the stuff, and then they'll get upset just because someone asks for one actual situation, you know, or if they say something about Joe Biden, you know, Joe Biden is a racist, you know, give me cite one source, you know, a valid source, and the person will get upset. So this is the thing, we come to an era where we want to encourage freedom of speech, but we only want that freedom of speech if it's the same way that we think. Right. You know, and that's where I think the destruction of our society as well as our community is going, because they have something where you know, like now you can't even be secretive. You know, they have all these apps. As soon as you start speaking to someone, you press a button on your phone and starts recording that call. You know, I spoke to someone in law enforcement. They can't even talk in the locker room, you know, between their shifts, or invite people over for barbecues anymore, because, you know, they could be talking about anything and someone come out and say, oh, I felt uncomfortable, and they go to the chief of police when, you know, it's supposed to be talk. You know, and if something's inappropriate or makes you uncomfortable, let that person know. You know, be an adult, be a leader, let them know that what they said made you uncomfortable. You know, because some people don't know. So I think we definitely need to start with our self-accountability, you know, and that's what we get from holding the politicians accountable. We also have to hold ourselves accountable.
Right. I totally agree. And that was the thing that I was trying to find a source, because I remember watching the interview with the BET's owner, and he talked about Black interests and what that should be. And he said something that I'm trying to quote him verbatim, man. I can't find the actual quote, but he said something that dealt with like how to bulletproof your friendships and how our Black interests shouldn't be based around friendships. You know what I'm saying? And I can't think of the quote, but I may have to just post it later, because I'm looking for it while you were talking and I can't find it. There's a video that I did save. I had to go back and look at the video again, you know, which is all good. It's all good. Yeah. So what about like resources, man? Like what are some of the resources that we should be aware of? Like where could we go? Like, you know, voting is coming up. Let's start with let's bring it here, because voting is coming up. And again, I too was a skeptic. I said this last night in our pre-interview that we had last night. You know, I was a skeptic. You know, I'm not somebody that's well versed in politics. You know, I could definitely admit that. You know, but I'm learning though. I'm learning. And one of the things that I would love for people to know is like what their resources are, and like how to apply to vote, and the different ways of voting, and you know, then we can just build from that, if you're cool with that.
Yeah. Well, the first part, of finding resources, we have to stop, you know, and I'm talking in general. We have to stop being a victim and start actually looking for ourselves.
Right.
Because there are a lot of resources. If someone needs a new roof in Wake County, in Cumberland County, in certain areas, someone needs new windows and they're elderly and, you know, the house is in their name. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be paid off, but if their name is on that deed, there's millions of dollars in assistance, you know, they can be looking for, you know, and we don't look for that stuff, you know. But then there's other people that move to the area. They find someone that's elderly and say, hey, I'll give you $100,000 for your house. You know, I'll give you this for your house. They put that check in front of their face. You know, they see all that money. I ain't seen this money in long. Okay, it's sold. And then that person takes that house. They go apply for these resources. You know, when that person signs for that house, they also have a lot of paperwork in there signed saying that that person is saying that they're going to apply for these resources. So then they're able to buy a home, use the resources to, you know, flip that home and make money off of it. You know, they're tapping into all these resources. But there was a meeting, I think a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, about the affordable housing bond. You know, that was supposed to be a great resource. But you know, I think the mayor, some people on the board were on there, and there were two questions that I asked, you know, of everyone on the board, including the mayor. The first thing was, what resources or training or educational avenue is going to be out there to educate the community on how to obtain these resources? Because when they pointed out the budget, it was nothing for that. Out of $80 million, nothing was pointed on how they're going to educate the community on those available resources. And when I see that, if you don't have a way you're going to get out there, that means it's probably not going to happen. So my second question was, when I went to the website and when I saw all the verbiage on everything, it said the potential. It said the potential that it's going to have this, the potential that's gonna have that. And they, in the meeting, they kept saying, oh, this is what's going to be in there. This is going to be in there. So I asked them, when is the verbiage going to change to being permanent? And they said, well, it's going to be in there. I said, well, where on the ballot that you have people voting for now, when is it going to be permanent? So they're actually voting for something that they can hold you accountable for. And the mayor, she came on and she deflected it. They didn't answer it. They couldn't answer it. They just said it's going to be permanent. Then a week later, you go on to the website today. It still says the 5 items that will potentially be on there. So people are voting yes. But just like our education lottery, which was supposed to bring in 2005 teachers raises, new schools, scholarships to colleges. In 2008, guess what went away? In 2008, it said the education lottery has raised $6.5 billion for North Carolina. Guess what? 15 years later, you look at the billboard, it still says $6.5 billion. How come that number hasn't changed? Because it's not going to education anymore. Every year they're having these bonds that say the school bond and this bond. If this was supposed to be from the education lottery, why do we still have to sign a bond every year to raise our taxes? You know, so they just deflected, and that's why I have a problem with that affordable housing bond, because it's basically the Black community signing a blank check. And I say we're signing a blank check because they put up numbers, which is the city tax.
Right.
But they put up the city tax, but they didn't calculate the county tax. They didn't calculate how much your escrow, if you're a homeowner, how much your escrow is going to go up, how much your mortgage is going to go up. Most people I know, our mortgage went up about $275. You know, we're fine with it, but some people went up more than that.
Right.
You know, those are the numbers that they don't give people. And my time working with at DMV going through legislation, that kind of like opened my eyes to be able to pick those buzzwords up that they're using.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when a new sheriff comes in, it's like, we're going to start at task force. You know, that's the buzzword, task force. Then the next sheriff comes in, you know, we're going to start a coalition, which is same exact thing. You get a bunch of people. You know, Raleigh just got a commission together, a community commission together, basically that doesn't do anything. Just so they can say that we got this to connect to the community.
Right.
So that's another form. By them not putting things permanent, we have no way to hold them accountable. And that's the problem that why I have. And people are like, well, why is Aaron Blue up there talking about something that's going to help the community? Because I don't think it's going to help. If it's not permanent, it's going to change.
Yeah, yeah.
$80 million is going to Kane to develop that new soccer stadium. So, you know, I've been saying it for the longest. And that's basically, Kane's on the board. You don't get on the board unless you have some interest in something that's going to be involved in it. That's just something I've learned through life. You get on boards to spark your interest. You get on boards because when you're running for office, I want to say I was on this board or that board. You know, let's be real. That's why we get on boards, for our own interests.
Yeah.
So with the different meetings that they have, be they the forum meetings, are these things that you think that people should go to, even if you're not very well versed, just to kind of take notes of what they're hearing? Because a lot of these are open to the public, correct?
Oh, there's by law, they're supposed to be open to the public.
So are these the things?
Since we've been in COVID, they've been doing Zoom. But the thing is I don't think it's out there a lot. You know, I know Diane Powell, I think she's heavily involved in things. She streams it like crazy, you know. And honestly, out of all the ones that I've seen, you know, out of all of our leaders, the only one that I've seen do something was Yvonne Holly. You know, when they were talking about the soccer stadium, Yvonne Holly, I never met her. I didn't know her, but she was the only one sitting in the meetings asking them, well, what's in it for the community? Right. She's like, I see you doing all these people for the people moving to Raleigh, but what about the people that's been here? You know, she was like, I don't like it. So she has a lot of my respect. And because of her morals and stuff to sound off, I said, you know, I don't even know, but she got my vote. Yeah. Lieutenant Governor, I didn't even, you know, because I feel that she really cares about the community. She doesn't care about stepping on somebody's toes.
Right.
You know, we talk about, you know, all these sayings, you know, let's do the good, you know, for the community. Those are the people that I love, you know, to follow on social media, to see what they're talking about, because we need to get more people involved. You don't even have to say anything on the meetings. All you have to do is just chime in. You know, you can mute your mic and just observe what's going on in your community.
Yeah, that's true. And I was able to look up that quote that I was trying to find. But he was saying that black voters, this was back in the 1974 Black Caucus, they said black voters should have no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. And I said, wow, that's profound, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I think, again, we can be so easily emotionally led. And I feel like not just in the Black communities, because you hear it across the board, but we can be so easily and emotionally led, just people in general, that friendships could fall out, family members fall apart, all kinds of things happen, all because of one's political views, man. So I want to throw that back out there again, because that was something that I thought I missed it yesterday. I didn't write down the notes, put it in my notes yesterday, but I said, man, that's profound, you know. So
Who was that quote? You said it was the 1974 Black Caucus?
Yeah, this was the BET, John, what's his name? The founder of BET, Johnson. Yeah. So yeah, he said that in an interview recently. Yeah, Robert Johnson. That's his name.
Okay.
So yeah. So let's go into, and at this point, if everybody, for those that have their questions, definitely start getting your questions together, and let's, so we can start bringing some questions into this whole chat we have going on here. Let's go ahead, and if you guys have questions, we're going to go ahead and move into our next segment. But if you guys have questions, go ahead and start dropping them in the chat, and we'll go ahead and start building on our next subject matter while you guys are putting the questions in the chat. All right. So the presidential debate, we know that was a few days ago, and we all know. Me personally, I kind of felt like we're being laughed at this moment, right? Because
Right.
it was very unprofessional, and I feel like, especially it was on both halves. I'm not even looking at one-upping anybody with that, but I definitely feel like we're being laughed at because going into debate, you're supposed to be trained, you're supposed to be taught like the art of debate, the rules and what are we debating for, and finding common ground, whether to agree or disagree, or agree to keep it moving, and coming from two people that are actually like leaders of our country. I was like, but what are your thoughts on that debate, man? What are you guys' thoughts? Free, throw you in there too. What were you guys' thoughts about the debate?
So I'm going to be honest. I tuned into the debate a little bit late. And I was getting my daughter down, baby Magic. And so when I got onto the debate, so I was just like, I'm going to come in. It's going to be some heavy meat and potatoes. I was so appalled. Yeah. I was appalled that my 7-year-old behaves better than that. Yeah. And I feel like the air of the debate was very arrogant. It was very self-serving. They both wanted to be heard. It wasn't a point of professionalism. And so with that being stated, hold on one second.
That's saying logging on the other. Okay.
There we go.
Switch cameras.
Yeah, I just had to mute that one. I was like, why are we echoing? Okay, got it. Yeah. It took away any nugget that I feel like I could have gained from it was stripped away. I think that, and as you hear commentary, I was watching it on TV, but I was also watching this stream on Facebook. People's comments were so ignorant. The point of like Biden has a stutter. We know that. Now, so a lot of times, even as being a parent, you're like, get it out. What you gotta say? But I think that people took that a point to discredit everything he said. I think that he was very distasteful, calling the president a clown, regardless of how he acts at times. That wasn't a platform, and you discredit yourself when you act outside of your professional realm. Yeah, I think that Trump just kept cutting off. And I've tried personally to think outside of, whether I like him, dislike him, let me listen to what you're saying. Yeah. I think his delivery is very condescending. And so it's hard to listen to him over time. I'd rather read something that Trump has to say versus hearing him. I don't really feel like I gained anything. I feel like, I'm not going to say I wasted my time because I needed to hear it, but I was very sad, and like I was just like, I'm not going to go back and listen to the first 30 minutes that I missed because I'm pretty sure it was just a repeat of this. Yeah,
but you know what though? So the first 30 minutes I didn't think was that bad. I think because like if you really watched it, because I did a live on my page with the watch party. I did a watch party on my page. And I had about 11 people that we all watched together, commentating and everything. So But if you really watch how Trump's approach was in the beginning, I thought it was brilliant, right? Because he kept pressure on Biden. It's like he came in prepared to fight in a boxing match, right? And he studied his opponent, which it didn't take much because everybody know Biden forgets. You know what I'm saying? So it was like he kept interrupting him, over talking him. And this could be just me. I'm looking at tactics, right? So he kept talking to him. He came with some quick rebuttals in the beginning, and kept throwing Biden off with what he had to say next. So he may just kind of laugh it off, giggle, smirk, or whatever. You know what I mean? But it was throwing them off, and I said, okay, I get it. But then when Biden started throwing jabs back, it got Trump in his feelings and his emotions, and then it just kind of from there. I said, you should have just kept your focus. If you would have kept your focus, you know what I mean, it would have actually been. I thought it would have actually been pretty decent. It would have been okay. But I don't know. It was a lot that wasn't said because of the bantering and everybody going back and forth and over talking the moderator. Trump ready to debate the moderator. It was
the moderator's like, your camp said that you would agree to. and my thing is that if you want to hold the American people to a standard, right? If you want us to conduct ourselves in a certain way, if you would like these things to be done, what example are you setting? Right. That's almost like the parent saying, don't do as I do as I tell you to do. And you're like, but look what you just did there.
Yeah.
And I think that when you don't have pure intentions, when you go into something, I don't think either one of them came with pure intentions. They came with the intentions to jab, which I think some of politics is, uncovering somebody else's scab to say, hey, look, mine looks better. Okay. But I think that's the messy part that I don't care for with politics. Yeah. Is the other person, while they're trying to get you to believe what they're saying, a lot of times they are poking at the other person. But I think it can be done tastefully. That was very distasteful.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think, Sam?
Well, I actually watched it twice, and I read the transcript also. The second time I read along with the transcript. And the reason why I do that, because, I want to take everything in, because I know I wanted to prepare for today also, but I wanted to make sure that my focus was anytime I see a debate, the only thing I care about are the policies. What are you going to do that can help the people I care about in my community? That is it. So I know there's one thing, like a lot of people think that there should be more than two parties. That's a big thing. There should be more than two parties because, look at the election. Look at our two choices. In 2016, everybody was like, look at our two choices. Yeah. Everybody was like, you vote for the lesser of the two evils. But for me, again, I don't do that. I look at the policies, and when I looked at the debate, the number one thing that a lot of people on both sides want to know that I've spoken to is the Supreme Court. Is the if Biden comes in office, is he gonna open up 6 more seats?
Right.
To stack it. So basically, when you do that, and then you make DC a state, you make Puerto Rico a state, you make Guam a state, you make, basically, what you're doing is you're creating just one. You're creating basically one powerhouse. You're basically doing what Amazon. That's how some people see it.
Right.
And the way I've learned, I heard someone talk when they had the Dream Team. They had Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and they were blowing teams out by 50, 80 points. Well, the other teams didn't say, hey, well, y'all need to lower the rim, or y'all need to let us have 6 people. What happened? They got better. They trained harder. They got better. So I felt like in 2016, rather than drag on a lot of stuff, the DNC they should have started right there working on someone else.
Yeah.
You know, rather than spending a lot of time on the impeachment stuff, just spending needless time. They should have been trying to vet someone else.
Yeah.
You know, if you lose, you know, my son attended Millbrook, and I felt in my mind Millbrook is the #1 public school in the state of North Carolina when it came to basketball. I love Millbrook, you know, but Apex knocked them out. And instead of crying about it, not saying nobody on Millbrook was saying the refs cheated or anything, they just said we'll be back next year.
Get better.
You know, the next year Apex knocked us out again.
They had the integrity.
Coach Davis, Coach McGinnis, the kids are like, we'll be back next year better. You follow? So like, it's one of those things you just prepare. Failures are supposed to prepare you. You know, you're not supposed to get everything like all these, you know, these participation awards. Come on now, we got to hold ourselves to a standard. And Free, when you was talking about, you know, believe me, when I first started watching it, after that first question, because, you know, when the moderator said, are you going to stack the Supreme Court and get rid of the filibuster? He's asking questions that Americans want to know. Just like when he, you know, asked some other questions, but Biden refused to answer it. You know, and I felt that a good moderator, when you have a question, you get an answer for whoever you're asking, whether Trump or Biden. A moderator is supposed to get the #1 goal of a moderator is that those questions on that list is to get answers for them, because moderator is supposed to represent the people. You know, not Trump, not Biden. Trump is the president. Biden used to be the vice president. So to me, I hold Biden to the same standard.
Absolutely.
You know, but I had a headache. I think I went through about 16 of these. You know, I posted this thing every time somebody did something, you had to take a squig or a shot. You know, and
that too.
I was sucking these Gatorade Zeros down because I was disappointed completely, but I was more disappointed with the moderator. You know, I know the moderator it was a little biased, you know, but at the same time, he should have made sure all of his questions were answered. And I'm hoping on October 15th or the 16th, if it moves to the 16th, that the new moderator, they just announced them. You know, I'm hoping that at least he gets his questions answered, because those are the questions that they're getting from the American people. But I only heard out of the whole 2 hours, Trump answered 3 questions, and Biden answered 1. The rest was just bickering, cutting off. You know, just it was horrible. You know, to me, when I look at debates, when I look at a politician that's out there campaigning, they're supposed to be going over their policies. This is literally like the first time I've seen them do their debates, or they do their, you know, when they go out to the community, and they're not even like, we listened to Biden yesterday. He didn't say not one policy.
Right.
Kamala Harris got on later that evening. She was there for 15 minutes, not one policy. So what do you want the American people to vote on emotion? You know, or do you want them to vote on like things that you're going to do for them? You know, and that's the question when people come at me, like, you know, I'm like, look, I take the emotion out of it. What are you going to do for me? My vote is not free. And us as a Black community, we have to start holding more weight. How can we expect people to value us and we don't value ourselves? Well, just vote straight ticket, vote blue or vote red or whatever. You know, put some value, demand something for your vote.
Right.
Yeah. But it was ugly. It was definitely ugly. And it did open my eyes to have the transcript printed out, to go through the debate the second time. That's where I was able to calculate, what was going on. It was definitely ugly, but just like how Biden should have answered the question about the Supreme Court, when Trump was asked about denouncing, white supremacists, the question was, are you willing today on national TV, denounce white supremacy? And, Trump's response was, well, I have. How many times do I need to do that? And the moderator said, will you right now? And he's like, Trump responds back, yes, I have no problem in doing that. And then the moderator says, well, say it. Well, say it. And then Joe Biden, I see that smile. He's like a kid in the candy store. He's like, yeah, say it. And then Trump says, well, who do you want me to denounce?
Right.
And the moderator says, white supremacists, neo-Nazis, and then Biden sounds off the Proud Boys. So Trump's like, okay, the Proud Boys, stand down, stand back, or stand by. Whatever he said, that's what he responded with.
No, who the Proud Boys?
That was his opportunity. Instead of trying to turn it to the left, to Antifa, just answer the questions. But the same way that the moderator was on Trump to say that, he should have been on Biden to answer the question, are you going to stack the Supreme Court?
Right.
Are you going to support getting rid of the filibuster? Right. And my thing, what I tell people when I post, if you're going to judge one side, judge the other side. People always say, well, he's the president. He's the president. Well, to me, if someone running for the presidency, they should be held to the same standard.
Yeah, absolutely.
You shouldn't say, well, he's not the president. If you're running for the office, you should be held to the same exact standard. Right. You was the vice president, second in charge, for 8 years. So you're running for the presidency. So I think it was horrible, but I did get something out of it. And one thing I definitely do know is that however you were voting before that debate, 99.9%, you're still voting the same way.
Right.
So this debate basically was just, I think it was they had the biggest audience on TV ever, in history. So you knew the American people, the world was watching. That's why I felt the moderator should have pressed his questions, for both sides. He should not have done any coaching to Biden. He should not have, he should have gave Trump, when he asked him, about denouncing, he should have just said, Biden, be quiet. Are you willing to announce that right now? Denounce them right here on national TV. Don't instigate, don't do anything, because when you watch it the second time, that's what was being done. So I think a lot of this, the moderator is like the MC. You're supposed to be if we need to get Samuel L. Jackson on there or somebody, Joe Rogan, that's going to put them in their place and not take anything, well, let's do that then. But a moderator needs to be, focused on getting those questions answered. Right. And hopefully that'll happen the next time.
Let me ask you a question, Sam. So in talking about politics, I feel like we can't talk about politics without talking about emotions, right? We like to, of course, put the facts first and the emotions next. But the way that, let's take Trump, for instance, the way that Trump has handled himself has allowed for a lot of white supremacy groups to kind of come out and speak out, or feel comfortable enough to speak out a little bit more, right? Not necessarily saying that he supports them, because I don't know for sure to make that allegation. But with that being stated, there have been a lot of new videos circulating where people are making threats about the election. Like, hey, if it goes this way, then this is a whole race war now. And so I think that some people, my personal opinion, some people feel like we're not only voting for president, but we're voting for ourselves. And are we going to feel comfortable walking down the street in the event that the election doesn't go a certain way? Is there going to be an instant rise in violence towards minorities if Trump doesn't win? And I think like just here recently, I've seen a lot of it. I've seen a great ordeal of people just coming out and speaking. I think in general, people have been very comfortable speaking hate in the last few years. And whether it be Black versus white, Black versus Hispanic, I think in general, people have just gotten comfortable because it seems at times the president doesn't have a certain level of decorum about himself. Or he just lets it rip. He says whatever it is. And so with that highest elected position, shouldn't there be some type of soft skills training or something? That doesn't negate what he's done, but a lot of times I think that's why people have such a hard time with really digesting what he has to say, because he comes with these insults. He comes with, a lot of strong views that can be deemed negative.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you combat that? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, first off, we're coming off of 8 years of having a Black president in history. Right. So when Barack Obama was elected president first term, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, they was turning in their grave.
Right.
Dang on Black man in the White House. They dang on lost their mind when he was running the second time. They got all behind, the white man running against him for the second term, because they're like, they didn't care. We got to get this Black man out the White House, right? Mm-hmm. So the way I personally feel, whether it was Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, had they won the election, these white supremacists, neo-Nazis, whoever they are, they was going to be behind us to support any white skin that was in that office. They was going to come out. They're just going to be happy to dang on have a Black man not in office no more as the president. Mm-hmm. And that's how I look at it. I don't look at it. I look at it like factual. I was in the Army. I served with guys that had never seen a Black person other than on TV, things like that. But, we had a talk. And back when I first went in the military, me and my roommate, we were dang on Black power, sneaking the final call, and which was illegal in the military. We were buying the final call. We was talking about how we want to sneak up to the Million Man March and all that stuff, And I talk to a lot of my friends now that I knew then, and some of them will say, "Man, I never thought that me and you'd be having a conversation." Like, you can tell how much you've grown. Yeah. And the way that I've grown is, when I was young, I was just about emotion. That was it. Fire. And as I got older, I began to start just looking, fact checking, studying, strategizing. And when we talk about all the hate and things that we're saying, Killer Mike described it best when he talked about CNN. When CNN, the building started getting messed with in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Killer Mike said CNN. Now he's like, karma's a beat.
Yeah.
Like, all you've been showing is all this hate, all this terror. You're not giving Black people hope. Because prior to him saying that, CNN didn't know he was going to say that when they were interviewing him. Prior to him saying it, CNN was only airing riots, destruction, all this hate, all this fire. Mm-hmm. Once he said that, they started playing peaceful protesters. Mm-hmm. They started playing, literally. They waited as soon as he called them out. Next thing you know, CNN, that's what they're playing.
Peaceful protesters.
So I think a lot of the emotion that we see is because the media is the most powerful entity on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, physical entity. The media they dictate everything.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine everybody being on quarantine at home. We're not out hanging out. We're sitting watching our TV and we're on Facebook or social media. You know, the media dictates that. I hear kids say, you know, more people died, you know, in the Iraq war versus Vietnam. I'm like, where did you get that from? You know, more people are saying, you know, Trump's the worst. You know, he's worse than Hitler. You know, I'm like, Hitler killed 6 million Jews. Like, really? You know, people are like, well, you know, we're at a point where we're worse than in the 60s. I'm like, really? You know, come on now, let's be real and factual. You know, I understand we be in emotion, but people also come at me because when they painted the Black Lives Matter in front of the White House, I was like, and really, what is that doing? They're like, well, it's progress. I'm like, what progress? You know, at some point we have to stop being about symbolism and be more about activism. Instead of being outside the house, let's not just get in the house. Let's not just get in the hallway. Let's get at the table. Let's get in the room.
Right.
The Native Americans are doing it, and look at them. Half of Oklahoma is now Native American property. You know, they're opening up all these casinos and all this stuff now because they're at the table. But when was the last time you saw Native Americans out protesting? They handle it they don't care about symbolism. You know, they what are we gonna do? You're only gonna get stuff done if we put people in office that are actually gonna not give us excuses. I tell people I don't want to hear excuses. When people say, well, Obama was president for 8 years, you know, I hear a lot of people say, well, Mitch McConnell this, Mitch McConnell that. I said, well, Obama signed 276 executive orders. And, you know, you can pull it up online. You know, Google, it'll come up on the White House. Every executive order that every president in history signed is cataloged right there online. It's public information.
Right.
And out of 276, you know, it was only a handful that actually helped the Black community in my eyes. You know, so everybody looks at the executive orders that Donald Trump signed. You know, they're like, okay, HBCU funding. I'm a veteran. I see the change in my military benefits and my health care in the last 3 years. This has been amazing. I'm looking at when I go to the gas pump. You know, number one in the world on exports of fossil fuels. Yeah. So normally when something used to kick off overseas, what would happen? Our gas prices skyrocket because it was dependent on all of them. And when Trump came in office, he said that was one of the first things he's handling. Now we number one. So it's like people can hate or whatever, but I look at things getting done. All the prescription executive order reducing prescription costs. I'm like, well, how come that hasn't been done, you know, before now? You know, one thing that Trump did as Biden, when Biden tried to pull the taxes thing, you know, what did Trump say? I used the dang on tax, you know, credits that you gave me.
Right.
He's like, you've been here for 47 years, you know. Right. He's like, I'd be stupid to pay more taxes than I have to.
Right.
And I look at it the same way. I hear people saying, oh, he only paid $750. I'm like, you should be trying to find out who his tax person is. Instead, I said, don't hate the player, hate the game. You know, those are the rules. If someone knows how to get a CPA that's going to do that, why not? You know, I use it all the time. So it's one of those things that we have to stop being about symbolism and be more about activism. Right. We have over 700 streets in the U.S. and around the world that are named Martin Luther King Boulevard. And 80% of them are on the roughest streets. So what does that do? You know, we're still dealing with police brutality, excessive force. What did that do? They painted Black Lives Matter and changed a block in DC, Black Lives Matter Plaza. We still dealing with excessive force, police brutality. It's symbols that really don't mean anything. Because the same. What you said?
I said question. So it seems like a lot of the issue with the president is moral. Is like, are you a moral person? I think like, in the issues that a lot of people have with his approaches to things, and I get what you're saying. Like that really ain't how you feeling ain't got nothing to do with what's being done. So I think maybe it's a moral thing, right? I think that's what it is. I think that's solely what it is. Morally, people don't think he's a great person.
Yeah.
But it does not mean that he has not done great things.
Right. And that's the argument.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, because when some people vote for a president, most people that I know in my circles, I vote for policies. I don't vote for personality. And everybody that I know, even like strong MAGA people, whatever that parameter, they will be the first to admit that joker personality, he ain't the most likable person personality-wise.
Right.
What is he doing for the Black community with all these opportunity zones and stuff? And someone one day told me, well, opportunity zones don't, Trump did that, but it ain't doing nothing. I was like, do you know who Tim Scott is, the one that brought the opportunity zones up to the president's attention? So it's not, when you're the president, to me, I measure a president on his ability to look at the people and do what they're asking to be done.
Right.
The Black community was asking for more jobs. Unemployment went down. We were looking for more entrepreneurs in the Black community.
Yeah.
The last 2 years, there's been more Black entrepreneurs than any other time in the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, this joker talk out the side of his neck and things like that. But I look at it as, okay, while he's in, or whoever's in, Obama, Clinton, whoever, I'm looking at policies that I can use. And this is like the first time me personally, and I'm just talking personally, that, life's been pretty good. We have some things going on, but June 16th, the president signed the Safe Policing and Safe Communities Police Reform, which took care of using tear gas, chokeholds, more advanced GPS and body cams that actually track officers. Because of, if anybody knows about Freddie Gray in 2015, when them 6 officers beat him down to the point where I believe they shattered his spine, they threw him up in the van. And the police station was like 12 minutes away. He didn't show up to the police station for 2 more hours.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So in that executive order, it has the advanced body cams that actually tracks the GPS on the actual officer. It get, again, the chokeholds, the tear gas, all those things right there. But yet only 3 states signed it in the state law. Connecticut, Colorado was the first. It was signed, the executive order was signed on June 16th. They signed it in June 19th, Colorado.
Right.
Then Connecticut and New Jersey. So the question that the community should be asking is, why aren't our representatives, why isn't our governor pressing the General Assembly to pass that in North Carolina?
Right.
Because the law's in place. One person said, well, they don't got the money. They got $500 billion in the budget set aside to help these police in the states come into compliance. One of the things of that executive order is just like the driver license. It used to be, if you got a DUI in North Carolina, I could drive the next day over to Virginia and I could get my Virginia license. That used to be how people beat a DUI. They would get licensed in another state.
Right.
As soon as they created the problem driver appointment system, the PDPS system, if I get a DUI here in North Carolina and I go across the border to Virginia, it's going to be flagged. They may not know what it is, but they're like, you got to talk and clear it up with North Carolina.
Yeah.
So in that new police reform executive order, if an officer shoots somebody or anything, they get like a driver license now, except it's for law enforcement. So if they get in trouble in Florida, they try to go all the way to Seattle. Guess what? It's gonna pop up. They got to clear it through them.
Right.
How come more states aren't signing to make that into law? How come we're out here demanding justice, but everybody's ignoring that police reform executive order that was signed? That's what I mean by we're focused on getting out there in the streets when we should be protesting the General Assembly, the governor's mansion. We rather have hate. Some people rather ride this hate rather than get the issue fixed. But to be honest, when you fix the issue, some people start losing money.
Yeah.
There's some people out there, this is how they make money off of anger in our community. That's how they get their donations. You know, when stuff like this is going on.
Yeah.
But to me, I'd rather handle it, you know, knock it out and do it the right way and actually keep people from getting killed.
Right.
And some people will say, oh, not many black people compared to white people. I don't care regardless. If you get it done the right way, nobody, regardless of your race, will get killed from excessive force or police brutality.
Right.
But that was signed on June 16th, but nobody's talking about it.
Wow. I'm learning over here, man. I'm in class right now. I'm learning.
If anybody's watching, they can Google. It's public information. It's a Safe Policing in Safe Communities executive order. It was signed on June 16th, and that's police reform.
Yeah, that's good
and
stuff.
Only 3 states have put it in the law.
That's good stuff. Good stuff. So I'm wondering if anybody going to drop any questions. You know,
I think I can do a little. I don't want to say they might be a bit intimidated. I don't want to say scary because I don't think it comes from a place of being scared. I think it comes from a place of lacking understanding. And when you lack the understanding, sometimes you might not understand how to formulate the question.
Well, I did get some questions most of the people that I speak to, they DM me questions and things like that. And we kind of like I kind of like answer those in my posts. So sometimes when I post something on Facebook, it's just not coming from me. I'm answering questions that people inbox me. You know, but also when they inbox me, I always cite sources and stuff because I don't want them to take my word for it. But I want them to go fact check me. You know, there's some people out there, you know, I don't want to call them out here, but they always come at me and I love it because nothing is wrong with intelligent dialogue. You know, that's how we learn. You know, that's how we learn how to interact. I don't know who in this world, me and my wife are like night and day. If we were both the same, we definitely would have been divorced probably. We don't, you know, I'm yin, she's yang. She's, you know, she hear music, she's the first out on the dance floor. I'm the one against the wall. You know, she's quick to say hi to everybody. I'm the one that I wait till I kind of get to know you. I'm real quiet and then we're good.
Yeah.
You know, I love being around opposite thinking people. You know, because if I try to stay away from them, how can I educate them?
Right.
You know, or how can they educate me?
Yeah. Well, I have a question though, because I know that you brought up earlier. We were talking about the Proud Boys, and I mean, I know Freak. You still have that comment? I mean that.
Yeah, what they are? Because you asked what it was. I was like, let me go find it.
Yeah, and I know that I seen something recently about the Proud Boys, I believe, of Utah, that were protesting with the they were together with the BLM, the Black Lives Matter, I believe. Was that Utah? Was it?
Yeah, the chapter in North Utah, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. So how are they like this whole racist movement, but they're side by side with the Black Lives Matter and North Utah. That kind of threw me off a little bit.
Well, basically, Black Lives Matter and the Proud Boys are completely opposite. Right. You got one that's far right, one that's far left. They can't stand each other. Matter of fact, a lot of the conflicts they're having when they meet up at the same protest.
Right.
But I think this was something because the people from Black Lives Matter kind of understood what the Proud Boys were. And basically, they came together to say, hey, we don't agree on a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing we will agree on that both of our organizations are not racist.
Mm-hmm.
And it's ironic when Joe Biden, when I was watching the debate the first time, when I'm sitting there watching and, my wife's in the kitchen, because she's not really into this stuff.
Yeah.
But I hear Joe Biden yell the Proud Boys, and I look down and shake my head. I'm like, do you even know who they are? Like, the dang on leader is a dang on Afro-Cuban. You know, he's Cuban.
Yeah.
A third of their members are Hispanic and Black. Like a third of them. Their Miami chapter is about 95% Hispanic.
Right.
So they are far. What they are is they're male chauvinists. They're patriarch chauvinists. They're like dramatic about it, but they're basically Second Amendment people.
Mm-hmm.
They show up wherever somebody is trying to get rid of Second Amendment. So they got all these chapters popping up, and that's why I found it real ironic because most of the leaders of all their chapters are Hispanic.
Hmm.
So I'm like, when I heard them say that, and then we turn to Facebook and Black Twitter, and I see people that I know and I respect. They're tweeting, yeah, you heard Trump call out his boys. He said, all right, boys, stand by, stand back, stand by. And, yeah, the Proud Boys, Trump won't denounce so-and-so. Like, these are people, this is what I talk about. They're relaying messages that aren't even true. It's misinformation.
Right.
Like if Joe Biden didn't yell Proud Boys, I think Trump may have said to the neo-Nazi, he would have followed the moderator. But, we don't know. But I know I've seen multiple times before he was nominated, after he was nominated, what he said in Virginia, where everybody just wants to say there were very fine people. Everybody wants to take, we have this scripture where it says, judge not.
Yeah, that's
everybody wants to say judge not, but they don't want to say the rest of the scripture.
Right, right.
They want to change scripture to their own narrative. So my thing is play the whole clip and actually listen to what he said. Because when people downtown Raleigh go riding, there's some parents that I know that kids went down there. I say, hey, make sure you either go with them or, you make sure they leave, after an hour because riots are going to happen. There are people down there with the intent to get that new TV, get that flat screen, when there's people traveling to other cities, it's about to jump off in Milwaukee. I'm about to pick up, people are renting vans, moving vans because they plan on loading up that much. So that's where we have to kind of like get rid of the emotional side. And, like I said, I get questioned all the time, people that I respect. And even after the questions, I still respect them. They'll say no shade, but to me, when somebody say no shade, that means shade.
All the shade.
Just like when someone says bless their heart, I know the next thing they about to say something negative about the person. So I think we have to try to it's always going to be emotional because it's in our DNA. We're an emotional group, but we have to learn how to stand by and listen to facts also. We have to, I was driving down New Bern Avenue one day and a guy blows past me in the car and he sideswipes two cars and I get in a far right lane to turn and I pull into the Audis off 64. Next thing I know, all these young black kids hopping out the car and they're going live. They're like, this guy, the police pulling, Raleigh PD pulling him out the car, and he ain't even do nothing to him. And they don't know that, you know, he just sideswiped some cars. And if it wasn't for this Honda Odyssey that he rear-ended, he would have still been running.
Right.
You know,
I
so
know the exact story you're talking about.
What you say?
I know the exact story you're talking about.
I mean, it's right across from you know, a subdivision across from us. A young man got shot by the police officer in the stomach. Everybody is protesting their downtown Raleigh, and I'm like, somebody asked me if I'm mad. I said, well, I'll tell you in a couple of hours after I see what actually happened. They said the young man was on his knees, hands up, and the officer shot him. Well, when the body cams came out, he was running around the corner, had a gun with a 30-round clip in it, and when they got the gun, it had a sawed-off serial number. I mean, filed-off serial number.
Yeah.
You know, and he was pointing that gun towards that cop. I know, I don't care who on this earth, I'm not going to wait to see if he missed me or not.
Right.
You know, so there's certain things that we need to wait. So basically, you had a whole group that was boycotting the chief of police till 4 or 5 in the morning. People was trying to get to work. They was trying to stop them. And basically, it was for nothing because they didn't want to wait to see what facts happened. You know, so, you know, there's certain, that's what we have to try to use. There's nothing wrong with emotion, but we have to learn how to have controlled emotion.
Yeah.
You know, controlled emotion is what we need. You know, and I think that's where a lot of these situations could have kept from, you know, getting out of hand.
Yeah. I agree. Well, I mean, I guess since we don't have anybody with any questions, no, nobody questions, no questions at all.
Yeah, like hearts and minds are clear.
Yes, all hearts and minds are clear. I guess all hearts and minds are clear. But
you know, yeah, I think like I said, I think it's many I think is mainly I think some people are scared to ask because they're scared of the truth. You know, some people, as I said before, some people want anger to continue. Some people want, you know, some people are making money off of making these earrings, making these, you know, their business, you know, small businesses are thriving. But when, you know, I tell people you have to not be afraid to ask questions. You know, but some people don't ask because they want to be angry. They don't want to be calmed down. You know, they want to be angry. No matter what, and regardless of what their situation is, you know, all we can do is pray for those people. You know, I know now, like I said, I've been seeing ever since this COVID started hitting, you know, since the president and the first lady got you know, hit with COVID, the stuff that I'm seeing people say, especially people that are supposed to be people of God, you know.
We just talked about that earlier.
You know, it just questions me, you know. A couple, when I saw some of the posts that they posted, I did unfollow them and stuff because I'm like, that's just negativity that I just don't want. That wasn't intelligent dialogue. That's just straight ignorance.
Right.
You know, so we have to look at like certain things that are, you know, I tell people, you know, when it comes to resources, like looking at things that are coming down the pipeline, you know, that's another reason why I tell people to watch C-SPAN. You know, a lot of the kids now are doing the foreign exchange, the Forex stuff. And there's a couple of kids that was talking to me about, you know, getting into Forex and stuff. And I said, you know, I never hate on anything, but I'm a cautious person. You know, I don't like volatile stuff. I like stability. Right. And I know Forex. So I asked them, I said, you know, what do you guys think about the peace agreement that was between Kuwait, you know, you know, over in the Middle East, the 4 countries. And they were like, well, we didn't watch it. I said, you're doing foreign exchange. You should be aware of what's going on overseas, because with them signing that agreement, there's billions of dollars that's about to start exchanging. Yeah, you know, so if you're in something, you need to make sure that you are, you know, you're studying so you know what's coming down the pipeline. You know, the people that are asking about stimulus and stuff like that, why C-SPAN? You know, because most of the people that I see that are posting online, they don't know. They're basically quoting what they see either on Fox or CNN or Bloomberg or Yahoo or MSN. You know, that stuff isn't factual, but why not watch it as they're actually discussing it? So you know how close it'll be for them, you know, if they're going to come to an agreement or not.
Right.
You know, you can see, I like to watch C-SPAN so I know who got up and walked away and refused to vote. Right. You know, on a particular bill, you know. So it's, you know, we have to, like a lot of entertainers that come out to say, you know, Black people are not outnumbered. You know, we're out organized. Black community is not outnumbered. We're out organized. Because it's so much division, you know, within ourselves. You know, so once we start doing those things, and, you know, unfortunately, we have to take that emotion out of it, you know, and not necessarily take it out, but just control it more. You know, I see people going live during the debate, going all crazy on their live, and I'm like, really? You know, is it really like that? You know, you sent me a video today, someone live that was outrunning the police.
Oh yeah,
was saying something, and I'm like,
yeah. The lady that was she was speeding, and I don't know where she was, but she was speeding, and the cops got behind her and this, and she's going like 60 and like a 35 or something like that, or 45 or something. And she didn't pull over, you know, she's going live the entire time, like a 10-minute video. And I sat there and watched the whole thing, like, come on. Like, she was afraid for her life initially because she felt like she was being pulled over as if she's a target. And she was like, I'm not pulling over. You're not going to shoot me today. You're not going to kill me today. And I'm just like, it's just a traffic stop. Like, just because you Black doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get shot. You know what I'm saying? But then she put the cops on the high-speed chase. You know what I mean?
No, she felt like the cop went into her yard. An officer came and approached her. And then she, you know, she's like, I ain't giving you nothing. You ain't taking me to jail. You're going to have to shoot me, but you shoot my family or something. And then she pulls out in Florida.
Yeah.
So like it's like 6 charges: evading arrest, you know,
fleeing, eluding, and all that stuff.
You know, endangering the community. Like it's probably 5 or 6 charges. But I'm not sure if y'all see on your side, but someone asked a question. I guess I have the watch party going.
So, okay. Yeah, we're not in your watch party. It's not going to show us because it's not a Kool Spot thing. But you tell us what the question is. We'll post it.
Can you explain the opportunity zones and how we can take advantage of them?
Good question.
All right. So basically, Tim Scott, the senator from South Carolina, when Donald Trump was elected, he basically there was some issues. You know, he said he had a lot of problems with the president. Tim Scott did. And I guess word got to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump was like, you know, hey, we need to have a talk. And this is Tim Scott. You know, people can YouTube him talking about that conversation. So Donald Trump says to him, what can I do to get trust in the Black community? Because Tim Scott basically told him, you don't have the trust of the Black community. So Donald Trump says, what can I do to get their trust? So Tim Scott says, you know, I've been thinking about this idea ever since I been in the Senate, and this called opportunity zones. So Trump's like, hey, tell me more about it. So basically he's like, we give these big corporations, big franchises, tax breaks for them paying the cost for minorities to franchise restaurants or franchise businesses. So basically, I applied for a couple, because I'm taking advantage of it. I think Rick Ross just gave a shout out to Tim Scott because he built 55 more wing stops because of it, because those tax breaks. So basically, I'll use Steak and Shake because that was the last one that I did. So normally to open a Steak and Shake, it runs about either 1.5 to 2.5 million dollars, because when you franchise, it's not just your franchise fees, but you have to build the building. You have to pay for everything that's going to entail in the building. Like, basically, you're just paying Steak and Shake to use their name.
Right.
And you also have to be in compliance with all their signage and all that, but you have to buy it. So basically, with Steak and Shake, if you don't have a job, or you have the means to get a signature loan or something for $10,000, they bypass the 1.5 to 2.5 million requirement. Steak and Shake pays for the entire construction. They pay for everything you need. You fly to the headquarters for 6 months, and they train you how to own your own business. They train you, hotel, all that stuff is included. They're paying it because they're getting a tax break for it. So that's why they're not really losing anything. And basically, for the first 10 years, you split all profits 50-50 with Steak and Shake. And if the average Steak and Shake makes $200,000 to $300,000 a month, if you didn't have much before, splitting $200,000 to $300,000 a month ain't bad. For 10 years. Then after that 10 years, of course, all you do is pay your franchise fees. So that's basically how the opportunity zones work. So that's why you had in the last 3 years, you have T.I., Killer Mike, Rick Ross, Shaquille O'Neal. They've all been exploding on their franchisee, how many franchises they've been opening because they're utilizing these tax breaks. So that's one of the resources that our community has. I told my wife, I said, shoot, I'm cashing in my retirement to do it. My 401, because I'm like, okay, own a dang on restaurant with zero cost but $10,000. That's not like getting a scratch off. It's and opportunity zones, Garner, Clayton, Fayetteville, Hope Mills, Spring Lake, Warren, Little Washington, like all these areas in North Carolina that are opportunity zones. So we have to kind of use these resources. They're there. They just signed a Hispanic Prosperity Executive Order a couple months ago, giving $7.5 billion to the Hispanic community so that they can go to a charter school, private school for free, go to college for free, and they're designating 5,000 opportunity zones. The Black community got 9,000. So when people hear about the Platinum Plan and stuff like that Trump has said, if he gets reelected, they're like, well, he's finally doing something. That's part two. They haven't been paying attention to the last 4 years. When I heard people saying we're going to boycott Goya Foods, he just gave them $7.5 billion for them to go to college for free, to create new businesses. Why are you going to boycott that? Why are you going to boycott progress? The Black community didn't, I know I took advantage of the policies this time. There's some things my son, I turned him on to that he probably doesn't even realize it. He's using. So I think we just need to open our eyes and fact check research, because half the people when it comes to politics, they're not looking at anything other than what they see somebody repost on Facebook or Twitter. We have to open our eyes, and look for ourselves. But there's money out there for Black businesses. Of course, that Platinum, they're talking about $500 billion, but the goal is to open up, 500,000 new Black businesses or support struggling businesses. So I tell people, get your 8-year plan together so you'll be prepared if it does go through. If not, we talk about the guy on BET. He's like, he's just telling that how it is. He's like, with Trump, I know what we got.
Yeah.
I like, he's like, he sold BET and he's been able to like increase his money 5-fold. With Biden, some people are like, we don't know because he's not saying any policies. I think I sent you a clip where he's endorsing the Green New Deal, and then he turns right around 10 seconds later and says he's not endorsing it. So I'm like, what you spend the last minute talking about if you're not endorsing it? So that's what I mean by we have to open our eyes and ears. We have to have a balance between, our minds, our eyes, our ears, and our hearts. If we think with stuff emotional, we're not going to progress. And finding that balance, I think, is how, how we'll get there.
Right.
People are saying, oh, if if Trump get reelected, we'll go to war. But we're supposed to go to war when he first got elected. The world was supposed to end. Everybody's talking about they moving from the U.S. if he got elected. But they still here on Facebook, right down the street on Highway 64, chilling. Put in a plan. Put a plan in place. Nothing's wrong with moving out the U.S. I lived outside the U.S. all the time. I've been over the U.S. probably 15 years outside the U.S. Some places great, some places not great. But we just have to start focusing and organizing. We're just divided. It's so easy to divide us.
Right. Well, I think this was a really good build. Of course, like I said, I'm learning this stuff as I go, and we talked about a lot. We covered a lot of ground. And I feel like if anybody has any other questions that may come up afterwards, we are definitely open for inboxing questions. I could always, if I don't have an answer, forward it over to Sam. Like, Sam, this is what I got, and may even do like a discussion post on some questions too, like Sam said earlier. I think that's always a good idea. But yeah, this was a really good build. We're over our 2-hour mark now, and I want to bring this to a head. But Sam, I just want to say personally, bro, thank you for taking this time out to inform us on a lot of different, ideas, policies, what is and what isn't. Kind of the discussion right here. So I want to personally thank you directly here at the Kool Spot from us, and let you know, man, like anything you need, man, hey, let us know. I know we've talked about that Samuel Blue podcast coming soon. So yeah, hey, I told you I got you, bro. Whatever you need to know, whatever you need, equipment, whatever, what I'm saying, just let me know. We'll make it happen. But just want to say thank you, man, and for everybody that tuned in and hung in there with us. Thank you all as well for hanging in there. We were hoping that you guys had questions, but all is well with that. And Free, of course, like always, Free's always holding it down with the commentary and the scrolls across the screen and everything else. So that's always a beautiful thing. She's dropping stuff. She's working those magic fingers on her end. But if you guys have not followed the Kool Spot page yet, check us out, the Kool Spot on Facebook. And you guys can always follow us on thekoolspot.com. This event was actually streaming live from thekoolspot.com. Again, you guys can actually synchronize our events to your personal calendars. So whenever we go live, you'll get a notification and directly from the website. Become a member, join the Patreon. We're asking $1, $2 a month would be the pledge or whatever comes to heart. And like, subscribe, Of course, the YouTube channel, had to get those views up and the membership up on that. But we're doing a lot, and today was just something that I was really excited about. Still am excited about. A lot of good information that went forth. Hopefully you guys, you guys can actually take something from all of this. You know what I'm saying? So, Free, you have anything before we close out?
Nope. He already hit it. The patreon.com/Kool Spot. Our personal Facebook pages, Lamoy Decina, Free the Poet NC, and Miss Rita Free. On Instagram, it is the Kool Spot NC, and also Free the Poet NC. We ask that you continue to follow us. Also, make sure that you follow Sam Blue. Okay, make sure you follow him. His Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook are below. And just understand that everything we do comes from a place of love for the community, wanting to grow, exceeding. If you feel like you have something to offer, you want to come to the Kool Spot, let's talk about it. Let's talk on a podcast or business spotlight, because this is how we grow. This is how we better each other. And so let's continue to flourish together. There's room out here for all of us. Okay. And remember, early voting starts October 9th. Okay. You're going to see us with something with voting. Just know that. Okay, guys. So please understand, use your voice, use your rights. Early voting begins on Friday. Okay. I think that's all I got. You have anything else, Sam?
I just want to let everybody out there to know, it would definitely mean a lot to me if you follow the Kool Spot. I try to tune in as much as possible. He does too. A lot of times, I'll have questions ready in my notepad so I can cut, copy, and paste. But there's a lot of good discussion, a lot of good dialogue, and that's something I really like. And last, I want all the mentors, coaches, leaders out there to just be mindful of the messages that you guys relay. Because especially the churches, be mindful of the messages that you guys are relaying, because some of these messages, I'm just going to speak honest, they're the reason why some people don't go to church, because they're seeing how you're they're just seeing how you're reacting with certain things that's going on now. So just be mindful of what you leaders, mentors, coaches out there are letting leave your mouths or your fingers, because our next generation, we definitely need to prepare them to have a controlled emotion, not just sporadic, but controlled. So that was it. That's
good.
A lot of things I'm reading, and it's ugly. So,
yeah. Powerful, man. Powerful closing. So just be mindful, everybody. Let's govern ourselves accordingly. Hey, I'm also a believer, but I also agree with everything that you said, bro. And
I feel like I passed that offering plates of knowledge. Okay, not the financial, but the knowledge that y'all just gave, and morally holding yourself to a certain regard, regardless if somebody else does or not, holding yourself, because that's what matters, your reflection that you got to look at.
It's priceless knowledge.
And holding ourselves with integrity, that was a big thing we discussed today too. So let's be morally conscious, let's act in integrity, let's be our voices, let's use our voices, and let's continue to empower the youth. Okay, until next time, y'all.
Peace.